Archaeologists found an ancient tomb in Siberia, but what was inside shocked them. Have you ever imagined that, in the frozen, desolate lands of Siberia, horse-drawn chariots once rolled across the steppes thousands of years ago? Then, like a whisper from the past, an ancient tomb, perfectly preserved for over 3 millennia, was unearthed, transporting us back to a time when chariot drivers stood at the center of power and daily life. Incredible, right? But this isn't fiction. It's a real discovery that left the archaeological world stunned. In the Askizsky District of Khakassia, a mysterious region deep within Siberia, a team of Russian archaeologists led by Dr. Aleksey Timoshchenko uncovered a 3,000-year-old burial site. What made this tomb extraordinary wasn't just its remarkable preservation, but the powerful story it told about a long-lost culture, the Bronze Age Lugav civilization. Atop a carefully constructed burial mound, beneath a square arrangement of stones, lay the remains of a man believed to have been a chariot driver, someone who likely held significant status within his community. Beside his skeleton were stunning bronze artifacts, a dagger, jewelry, and most intriguingly, a metal belt with a hooked attachment. For years, archaeologists referred to this strange item as a PNN, an object with no known purpose. But recent discoveries in ancient tombs across China and Mongolia have shed light on its function. The hooked accessory was likely designed to fasten the reins to the driver's waist, helping them control the horses while steering the chariot. In a way, this was the steering wheel of the Bronze Age, a prehistoric version of a modern car's wheel. The striking similarities between artifacts found in Siberia, China, and Mongolia suggest that advanced civilizations once flourished across this vast region, with deep cultural exchange between them. The chariot system, it turns out, wasn't confined to one isolated area, but may have spread widely across the Eurasian steppe, something we never previously imagined. This leads us to a profound question. How could communities separated by thousands of miles have shared such sophisticated technology? Was there an ancient communication network that transcended both time and space? Dr. Timoshchenko also revealed that the man buried in the tomb belonged to the Lugav culture, a people whose livelihood was primarily based on livestock herding. But by the 8th century BCE, during the early Iron Age, they were replaced by the Scythians of the Tagar culture. This cultural transition may have marked the end of the Lugav chariot era, but the legacy they left behind, like this very tomb, continues to whisper their stories to us today. It's hard not to feel a chill when you realize that beneath our feet, where only cold, empty grasslands stretch today, once echoed the thunder of bronze-covered chariot wheels and the pounding hooves of war horses carried by the Siberian wind. Saying that this tomb is not merely a burial site, but a portal into a lost world, might sound dramatic, but it's absolutely true. And just when you think this ancient grave might be the most chilling discovery of all, think again. It's not the only one. Over the years, archaeologists have been tirelessly working and have unearthed countless incredible finds. More ancient tombs like this one, fully preserved mummies, hidden treasures, and strange artifacts that no one today can explain. Objects whose creation defies our understanding of ancient technology. So, stay with me through this video as we uncover what else has been found and what other secrets from the ancient past are waiting to be revealed. A 2,500-year-old headless mummy found in a peat bog in Northern Ireland. It all began in October 2023, when the Police Service of Northern Ireland announced the discovery of scattered human bones in a boggy area. The haunting crime scene images, along with the absence of a skull, led authorities to suspect a modern murder. However, when researchers began conducting detailed high-tech analyses, the entire narrative took a dramatic turn. What they had found wasn't the result of a recent crime, but the mysterious death of someone from the distant Iron Age. Despite being buried for thousands of years beneath layers of peat, the skeleton was astonishingly well preserved. The skin on the hands, toenails, and even a kidney, some of the softest and most fragile tissues, were still intact. This incredible preservation was thanks to the bog's cold, acidic, and oxygen-deprived environment, essentially forming a natural refrigeration chamber that kept these ancient human traces intact for millennia. Experts quickly determined that the remains belonged to a teenage boy, estimated to have died between the ages of 13 and 17. But the most disturbing detail? His body had no head. So what really happened here? Was he murdered? Or could this have been part of a ritual sacrifice, a practice that was known to exist among certain ancient Celtic cultures during the Iron Age? It's a difficult question to answer, but you might be surprised to know that throughout European archaeological history, bogs have been known to yield many bog bodies, individuals who were ritually sacrificed, often bearing marks of strangulation, stabbing, binding, or beheading. Could the headless corpse in Belagi have been part of one of these gruesome ceremonies? To uncover the truth, scientists applied radiocarbon dating for the first time on a bog body found in Northern Ireland. The analysis, conducted at the 14 Chrono Centre at Queen's University Belfast, confirmed that the individual had died sometime between 2000 and 2500 years ago. This time frame perfectly aligns with the era in which Celtic cultures thrived in the region, an age known for its deeply spiritual rituals and unusual burial practices. Taking the investigation even further, Dr. Alistair Ruffell and his research team performed high-resolution ground-penetrating radar surveys across the bog to determine the exact depth and geological context of the burial. Their findings revealed that the body was buried approximately 3.3 feet beneath the surface, surrounded by clusters of fossilized wood, evidence suggesting that the victim may have either been deliberately buried under layers of mud and forest debris or had been swept into the bog by a natural phenomenon. Everything about this discovery exudes mystery, something that stretches far beyond our imagination. The stillness and eerie atmosphere of the bog itself became a kind of time vault, where history lay sealed beneath cold mud and the passage of centuries. Although the identity of the headless boy may remain forever unknown, modern technology and humanity's relentless curiosity continue to peel back the layers of time, piece by piece, from deep within the earth. The 1,000-year-old remains of a German noblewoman, buried beside her husband. In the peaceful land of Saxony-Anhalt, once the political heart of the Holy Roman Empire under the reign of Otto I, a surprising archaeological discovery has left researchers stunned. It wasn't a treasure trove of gold or a grand palace, but rather a humble grave, the final resting place of two individuals who lived over 1,000 years ago. And yet, it was the simplicity of the site that concealed a haunting mystery. The skeletal remains of a woman laid to rest beside a man believed to be her husband, but with her face completely missing, leaving behind a chillingly empty skull. The excavation took place near the royal palace built by Emperor Otto the Great, the very ruler who founded the powerful empire that once dominated parts of Europe. There, archaeologists uncovered two skeletons buried side by side, suggesting an intimate relationship, most likely husband and wife. The man was tall and buried with iron objects such as a knife and belt, symbols of social status. Researchers believe he was a nobleman or official connected to a Frankish castle from the 9th century, as there were no signs indicating he had served as a soldier or warrior. However, what truly captured the archaeologists' attention was the woman's remains. Standing about 5 feet 1 inch tall, she was laid next to the man, yet her skull was missing the entire facial structure, an image both bizarre and deeply unsettling. At first, experts theorized that she may have died violently or had her face intentionally removed for unknown reasons. But after further analysis, Professor Felix Bierman from the University of Szczecin in Poland offered a more plausible explanation. The grave, being relatively shallow and close to the surface, may have been damaged in modern times, possibly by plowing machinery or even burrowing animals. Still, the absence of her face casts a shadow of sadness and mystery over her remains. Something about the way she was buried, or perhaps not fully honored, leaves the impression that she had been forgotten, especially when compared to the man beside her, who was laid to rest with his status visibly honored, while she had no grave goods at all. No bracelets, no hairpins, no bowls or jewelry, items typically found in the graves of noblewomen from the same period. This raises a difficult question. Were her grave goods stolen at some point, or was she simply never buried with them in the first place? The irony lies in the stark contrast between two people buried side by side at the same time, yet telling vastly different stories. One man was memorialized through symbols of power and prestige. One woman, perhaps his wife, was reduced to silent bones, faceless, nameless, and unadorned. They may have lived together, loved each other, and even held hands until the end of their days. But in death, they were treated very differently. This story is more than just an archaeological find. It's a vivid cross-section of medieval society. It reveals how roles, status, and even posthumous value were defined and divided, between social classes, between men and women. On 300-year-old remains discovered with a tattoo of Jesus Christ. Hard to believe, isn't it? Yet recently, in an ancient cemetery near the ruins of the Ghazali Monastery in Sudan, once part of the legendary Nubian region, archaeologists unearthed the remains of a man bearing a sacred symbol tattooed on his body, a mark representing none other than Jesus Christ himself. Even more astonishing is where the tattoo was located, on the top of his right foot. This was not just a decorative tattoo, it was a silent yet powerful declaration of faith, etched into flesh, preserved through more than a millennium. To imagine the moment of discovery, picture this. Under the blistering heat of the Sudanese desert, an archaeologist gently brushes away the sands of time, only to stop in awe as the ancient chariot symbol gradually appears on the man's footbone, an early Christian monogram used to represent the name of Jesus. But that wasn't all. Accompanying the chariot were two Greek letters, Alpha and Omega, the first and last characters of the Greek alphabet, symbolizing the belief that Christ is the beginning and the end of all things. Is there any message more profound than that to express one's faith? What makes this discovery especially unique isn't just the sacred symbols themselves, but the precise placement of the tattoo on the right foot. Some researchers suggest this may directly relate to how Jesus was believed to have been nailed to the cross. Could it be that this man chose to bear the sacred mark on his foot as a way to physically unite himself with Christ's sacrifice for the rest of his life? While that question remains unanswered, researchers like Robert Stark from the Polish Center of Mediterranean Archaeology at the University of Warsaw and Kari Gilbo from Purdue University believe the tattoo's location carries powerful symbolism, one that may reflect profound reverence for Christ. And yet, the man's identity remains a mystery. Though clearly a Christian, he was not buried among the clergy in the monastery's sacred grounds, but rather in the section designated for the local community. Carbon dating reveals that he lived sometime between AD 667 and 774, a period when Christianity had become a widely embraced faith throughout Nubia. This ancient region, stretching across present-day southern Egypt and northern Sudan, was once a vibrant center of civilization and religion. It wasn't just known for the Kushite pyramids, but also for its flourishing role in the spread of Christianity throughout East Africa. The fact that an ordinary man in this region would carry a tattoo of Jesus on his foot speaks volumes about the depth and reach of faith in that society. It also offers a window into how tattoos were used as expressions of personal belief, something modern culture and contemporary religious perspectives sometimes overlook. Skeleton of vampire child found, shackled in grave. A child only around 5 to 7 years old, who should have been laid to rest with love, embraced by prayers, was instead buried face down in the cold earth. A triangular shackle had been driven into the grave floor to lock down the child's leg, as if someone was trying to pin down a soul that must never return to the land of the living. No, you're not hearing it wrong. This isn't a scene from a horror movie, it's a real and chilling archaeological discovery made in the village of Pien, near Ostromecko, Poland. The area was once home to a mysterious cemetery believed to be reserved for those labeled as vampires. Archaeologists uncovered the child's remains in an unmarked mass grave. What shocked them wasn't just the bizarre burial method, but what it revealed about the deep spiritual fears of ancient communities. The face-down burial and the shackle bolted into the ground weren't just acts of punishment, they were manifestations of a shared belief that unless the dead were spiritually sealed, they might rise again and bring disaster to the living. Villagers believed that vampires weren't just legends, they were real threats that had to be controlled at any cost, even after death. This eerie cemetery had also made headlines the year before when the same research team discovered the remains of a woman buried with a sharp sickle laid across her neck and a heavy iron lock clamped around her big toe. These methods were all forms of spiritual sealing, designed to prevent the dead from rising and returning to the world of the living. The graves of the child and the woman were only about 6.5 feet apart. This proximity suggests the cemetery may have been used to bury individuals who were shunned by the community, those who had been expelled from formal Christian graveyards. According to Professor Dariusz Polinsky of Nicholas Copernicus University, who led the excavation, the people buried here were likely seen as unfit to rest among the devout. Perhaps they behaved strangely in life, suffered from deforming illnesses, or died suddenly under mysterious circumstances. To 17th century villagers, such signs were enough to justify a terrifying suspicion that the person had been possessed, or worse, might become a vampire after death. What's most disturbing, however, is how society at the time responded to these differences. A child who never had the chance to grow up, to explain or defend themselves, ended up cursed even in death. And that triangular shackle wasn't just a tool. It was a symbol of a deep-seated collective fear that had haunted European consciousness since the 14th century, the fear that the wrongfully dead might come back for vengeance. According to forensic anthropologist Matteo Barini of John Moores University in Liverpool, the practice of vampire burials wasn't rare in European history. As early as the 14th century, various communities developed strange burial customs to restrain the dead, driving stakes through the heart, stuffing stones into the mouth, or placing sickles over the neck. They believed that if left unsealed, the undead would first kill their loved ones, then their neighbors, and eventually the entire village. In fact, according to Polinsky's team, the child's grave was surrounded by scattered bones and the remains of a woman who had been about 6 months pregnant. That chilling scene, if visualized, would send shivers down anyone's spine, not because it looks like a horror film, but because it mirrors our primal fears of death, the unknown, and the unexplainable. Ultimately, it raises a haunting question. Was it fear itself that created the idea of vampires? The Kingdom of King David, the Slayer of Goliath. Thousands of years ago, in the sun-scorched, dust-laden Judean desert, one name echoed through religion, history, and legend alike: King David, the young shepherd who defeated the giant Goliath and later became the mighty ruler of the Israelite people, a legendary figure revered in the Bible, but whose historical existence has long sparked fierce academic debate. But now, a recent archaeological discovery has sent shockwaves through the global research community. The Kingdom of David may not have been just a myth, it may have been real. At the center of this controversial breakthrough is Professor Yosef Garfinkel, one of Israel's leading archaeologists from Hebrew University. After years of excavation and study, Garfinkel claims to have uncovered the remnants of a network of 5 ancient cities dating back to the early 10th century BCE, precisely the period in which King David is said to have ruled, according to the Bible. What's truly remarkable is that all 5 cities share a distinct architectural style: twin parallel walls encircling a central fortress, forming a unified and well-planned defensive system. Even more intriguing, all of them are located within a day's journey of Jerusalem, approximately 15 to 20 miles. So, what does this mean? If Garfinkel's claims hold true, then these cities weren't just random settlements. They were evidence of an organized kingdom, one with centralized planning, strategic defenses, and a hub of power, perhaps even the very kingdom ruled by King David, just as described in Scripture. Naturally, not everyone agrees. Some scholars were quick to criticize, arguing that Garfinkel's conclusions are premature and speculative, possibly shaped more by the desire to support biblical stories than by hard evidence. Professor Aaron Meir, an archaeologist from Bar Ilan University, even mocked the idea, comparing it to a fisherman's tale. With every retelling, the fish gets bigger. Was it a mackerel, or has it become a blue whale? According to Meir, while it's possible a political entity existed in Jerusalem during that time, its actual power and scale remain highly uncertain. Garfinkel, however, sees things differently. He believes that cities like Hebron, Kirbet Qeiyafa, and Soko were all part of an urban network within the Kingdom of Judah, the very seat of power that King David is said to have built. He emphasizes the meticulously planned fortifications, the interconnected roads, and the chronological alignment with biblical times. To him, it's too much to be coincidence. That's what makes this discovery so astonishing. For centuries, King David has lived in the collective imagination as a symbol, a heroic figure in stories, a sacred icon of faith, but not necessarily a real historical monarch with a tangible empire. As you can see, the world of archaeology is full of mystery and wonder. Some discoveries don't just make us shiver, they challenge what we think we know and leave even the brightest minds in science baffled. Buried for thousands of years, the past is beginning to surface, but instead of providing answers, it often leads to even more questions. Could it be that we're only scratching the surface of human history, seeing just the tip of the iceberg? Let's wait and see. Will science eventually reveal everything, or will the past remain a labyrinth with no exit? Thank you for watching until the end of this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any other jaw-dropping discoveries. Until next time, goodbye and see you soon.